I'm sure you've studied this very closely. We've seen this project go from $500 million to $1 billion. That's the cost for the property improvements themselves. I've been very concerned since I heard this. You're probably going to have to spend an equal dollar of public money for the infrastructure improvements. When I heard you talk about burying I-77, how many hundreds of millions of dollars is that going to take if you even went down that path? I don't think you're going to do that. I am totally adverse to this whole project, have been from the beginning. They have promised away all the revenues, so there's going to be no economic benefit to help repay any of this. So anyway, to get to my question, what's the bottom line, the range of outside infrastructure improvements that the public is going to have to pay? Have you sized this up? Are we looking at 300 or 400 million? $1 billion? I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up getting up close to $1 billion to do all these things that you're trying to do. Why anybody would cram a Disneyland in the middle of a well-settled area is beyond me. So what is the range of these outside infrastructure improvements at a minimum to accommodate, say, the mid-range, the $1.5 million, which again, I think is not realistic?
That's a good question. We had that discussion today. The short answer is we don't know, because we did not aggregate costs across the entire matrix that we showed. We have select cost estimates that we've done for this project and that project over there, things that we see as community needs or something that could be a tremendous value in the future. Just to see, like you said, it was a great example, the I-77 trench tunnel idea, that cost estimate was $500 million.
Oh, I believe it, yeah.
So that's not in the realm of realism. So that came off the table. Like, there's no way we can't hardly fund an intersection improvement around here, let alone a $500 million tunnel for a problem that doesn't exist. So that's when we started to look at a lot of the recommendations. If you look at the table, are smaller things, are like advertising SARTA service, doing common branding between events and things like that. Things that don't cost a lot of money. I know when stuff like this happens, everybody's mind goes to, we're going to be overwhelmed by traffic, we're going to have to expand all these roads, we're going to have to blow up all this stuff. It's not what we were presented with.
Well, the I-77 tunnel is just one portion of the infrastructure improvements. Are we looking at probably $1 billion in public infrastructure improvements?
No, because you have, right now, I know you guys probably don't think there's a perception that we ran into, but there's still a lot of capacity on Fulton Road to handle traffic. Some minor adjustments to the interchange that have been studied that aren't going to cost $1 billion could help improve that. Dispersing people so that they don't all have to go to one point and try and get there all at the same time, that helps lessen the need for infrastructure. So really, probably the most expensive thing on the list is that package of corridor improvements over there, which is probably $20 to $30 million. This project over here costed out at $12 million. So they're not, I guess, in short, we didn't set out to create this gigantic, unfundable package of projects. That doesn't help anyone.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Lickner didn't either when he started out at $500 million.
Well, that's not us. That has nothing to do with us. We were hired to be stewards of the public and the public's money and understand the funding situation that's out there, and that just to pave a bike path takes 4 or 5 funding sources. So it's not realistic for us to come in and say, okay, we need 7 lanes on Fulton Road. We need a giant intersection or interchange redo at 12th and 13th and up at Fulton. This is not realistic. That doesn't help anybody. So what we focused on was how can all the entities that are at the table work together to lessen the pain throughout the entire area spread out the burden, and do incremental small things that keeps up with the pace of development, because, again, who knows when that project's going to be finished? You know, it was supposed to be done by now, right? The first time they came out and said something, from what we heard. So, I don't know, we haven't been involved in it. But
And the stadium costs were supposed to be what, 25 million? And now they're 137 million, or maybe more.
right, so that's on them. And as Bob was explaining, our process was set up so that we could respond to that kind of fluctuation in reality. And so that's what we've done. We put together a list of things that will probably, 75% of them will probably never get done, because the situation may not materialize that those things need to be done. So, but the ideas have been thought about, they've been talked about. That's the key thing, is people are starting to come together and talk about these ideas, and it's not going to catch somebody off guard.
Well, it is going to come back on you because you're facilitating and keeping this idea alive. Somebody should have killed this a long time ago.
But it's a private project. Like, I can't come kill your deck project because I'm your neighbor, and I don't think you should have a deck in your backyard.
You can if you go to the zoning board of appeals meeting.
Chuck, that's what, being the director of the local planning agency in FPO, that's really one of the reasons why we pursued this grant, to get a handle on what some of those costs are. We get, through our agency, through the federal and state programs for transportation and infrastructure, close to $20 million a year, and that's what we do, is we fund infrastructure projects.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but
No,
there's a lot of things that I haven't thought about. Who's going to relocate and rebuild McKinley High School? How many hundreds of millions are we talking about that? Again, that's the private side of it, but there are just too many problems with it. This is unbelievable to me.